Hey there, everybody. Editor Dan here. Real quick before the show starts, we did get affiliated with ExpressVPN just recently. We're not quite sponsored yet, but if you want to help the stream out or if you want to help the podcast out, go check out ExpressVPN/Nat1Fun, and that'll get you 3 months free if you sign up for the 12-month package. That's it, guys. Thank you so much. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everybody, to Nat One-on-One, a podcast where we gain insight on the individuals in the tabletop role-playing game community, about their current projects and what kind of stuff they may have in store for us in the future. I'm your host, Dan Munoz, and joining me today is the founder of Gehenna Gaming. He plays Jackson on the Vampire the Masquerade actual play, ATL by Night, half of Sugar Axe, which he runs alongside his partner, Ellie Collins, co-creator of Virtual Horror Con, and writer and producer of a variety of TTRPGs and actual plays. You can catch him on Twitch, YouTube, and all over the internet. It's Ian E. Muller. All right, welcome in,
Howdy.
Ian.
Howdy.
Only Fangs. All right, so
Only Fangs.
Yeah, we were talking some stuff in chat. Don't worry about it. All right. So thank you very much for joining me today, Ian. I know we talked earlier at PAX, and I really, truly wanted to, one, get to know you a little bit better, but also get to know about what you're doing and kind of get the word out there about you yourself and Gehenna Gaming. So I'm super happy for you to join me today. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking me on. It was a honest pleasure chatting with you at PAX Unplugged, and I know you had to wait around for me too because we were super busy. So I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely, no problem. And I'm super happy I waited because it was a nice little interview. I got to know you a little bit, and I think it kind of set this up to begin with. You know what I mean? We now have something to go on. So
yeah, and we both got to forget Andrew Struther's name.
Exactly. Yeah, guys, if you haven't, you definitely need to check
Sorry,
out
Andrew.
You definitely need to check out our previous interview that we did at PAX Unplugged. You can find that on my YouTube channel at Nat1Fun/Nat1Fun, whatever. Anyways, I'm glad you're here. Let's go ahead and get started. So, as I was previously saying, we did talk a little bit about, different things, especially horror, the horror genre and the streaming content at PAX Unplugged. But before we get into the stuff that probably is more on the radar, things that people already know here, I'd like to talk a little bit more about you yourself. So,
sure.
You've been writing online for what looks to be around 14 years, according to your earliest work, which I could find. I don't know if there's more, but the first thing I could find was what happened to be about spiritual and philosophical reasons behind body modification. So that was your first thing I could find, at least, or the oldest thing I could find. So,
it's the oldest living piece of work that I have published on the internet. I blogged on WordPress and LiveJournal before that, but they are gone.
No, they've been lost to time.
Intentionally deleted from time.
So I would like to ask you, how long have you actually been writing for? I know that was, what's been published and what's visible, but what when did you get your start?
I mean, I've always wanted to be a writer ever since I was a little kid. And I think the first thing I published, I had an article as a kid, probably around middle school age or even younger, like fifth or sixth grade. I wrote an article, like an editorial piece for a newspaper that was published. And then when I got into college, I majored in philosophy and religious studies. And that piece that you found is actually my senior thesis from my degree program, which I published. I guess I'm ancient. So let's just say when I was 10 or 11 was probably the first time I wrote something that was published for the public.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's really impressive. Do you remember the first thing that was publicly published? Do you remember what you wrote when you were 11 or 12? What did Ian put out into the ether?
It was actually very it was more impressive than the stuff I do now. No, it was an opinion piece about something going on in our town. the town that I grew up in. I was like, as like from a kid's perspective, it was about like supporting local libraries and stuff.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. Like I said, a little kid thinking about that kind of stuff, and I mean, like from that early of an age, kind of writing and putting your opinion out there is really, it's really impressive. Now, now that you've been writing for so long, now that you have a few things under your belt, do you ever feel anxious when you put out a piece of work that's clearly been put out there to either stir up a discussion on a certain topic, or, you know, are you the like, here's my opinion, take it or leave it type, and you just put it on the internet and forget about it? Yeah.
No. I guess the easy answer is no, not really.
Oh, that's good.
I don't really feel anxious. Like I said, I majored in philosophy and religious studies, and a kind of personal mantra or philosophy I've always prescribed to is know thyself. And like, I am who I am. I stand. I wear my like stances and opinions on my sleeve. I'm very vocal about those things. So I don't really like when I state an opinion. That's my opinion. Take it or leave it. That's who I. If you're surprised by my opinion, you don't know me.
Right.
That's
Right.
kind of how that's the philosophy that I've always kind of taken, I guess.
Well, that's good. I think you kind of have to at a certain point for it not to really affect your progress as a writer. I feel like
Yeah.
it's nice to take in, you know, suggestions and or opinions from other sources and everything like that.
Mhm.
But I think
Yeah,
having
definitely.
your own like stability, you know, being able to say like this is what I think, and you know,
Yeah.
and take that in.
I think the important things to remember in there are like if I'm writing something that's not academic, or because I've written a lot in that space, and I know you wanted to talk about this more later on, but I worked in marketing as a writer for a long time. I just knocked something off my desk. Sorry about that. I like when I'm working in those spaces, it has to be very couched in like being accepting and understanding of different viewpoints, and kind of removing my opinion from things. But then when I'm writing for myself, or I'm working in TTRPGs, or working in, you know, gaming in general, or writing or podcasting, I'm allowed to inject a lot of my own opinion. And I have very strong opinions about things, as anyone who knows me will tell you. So from those standpoints, definitely from more of an academic or a professional standpoint, when I'm working in those spaces, that then I get a lot more like, hey, what do you think about this piece? Am I being too inflammatory about my stance on, I don't know if should be stating many of my public stances here. I don't know how your channel operates, but like if I, you know, I can't.
We don't give a fuck. We say
Right.
what we want.
So I try to remove like ACAB from my vocabulary when I'm writing professionally, but when it's my personal stuff, fuck the police. So you know what I mean? It's kind of like back and forth. But from the standpoint of like, even in TTRPGs, if I'm writing about other cultures or I'm not going to inject my opinions there. I'm going to be looking at it from a cultural standpoint. I'm going to get someone from that culture to review it and like give me their feedback and be like, hey, like, you should inject some more of this or take this out and things like that. So obviously I'm trying to be sensitive in those aspects of things.
Right. And it definitely helps you build up like a more a more descriptive and I would think a better thought out piece in the end whenever you have somebody else like looking in on it before putting it out there to the world, kind of thing.
100%. I am a very large advocate of do not edit your own work.
Yeah, for sure. A second set of eyes, a third set of eyes on things is always going to benefit you no matter what. You know, whether it be like a harsh edit or like a, hey, this is good to go. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So as you were stating, though, I did see that you also were part of some sort of cybersecurity companies. I did a little bit of a deep dive on like who you are as a person and everything like that. So I mean, I'm kind of trying to find like every facet of who you are. What brought you into the cybersecurity world, first off?
So kind of wanting to be a writer, and as mentioned, I majored in my degrees in philosophy and religious studies. There are not jobs in philosophy and religious studies unless you want to teach. So I started doing freelance writing when I graduated from college. I wrote for like MIT Technology Review, doing articles on tech because I've worked in the tech space a lot, and I'm very passionate about technology. And that got me invited to write for companies. So like, companies would be like, hey, you covered us in this piece. We need a blogger to just do content marketing. So I got into marketing as a writer, kind of working through there. And my day job now is very much digital marketing strategy and consulting. So I do broad spectrum digital marketing, not just writing for companies, specifically technology and preferably cybersecurity, because it's something I'm very passionate about, but not always.
Okay, so yeah, it's I mean, you pretty much answered my next question, but so you basically you do other things other than writing. It's not just writing for them. So that's great. I mean, like I said, diversifying your studies and everything that you did, kind of to get as much you can get done. Did you enjoy? So you're still involved with them? Do you enjoy your time there, or are you like always kind of wanting to get back into like that fantasy or fiction writing sphere?
I enjoy aspects of B2B marketing and writing in the technology space, but at the end of the day, that funds my work in the TTRPG space. Like that's really what my focus is. Like that's what my passion's in.
Okay, well that's good. I mean, I honestly, with what we were talking about, I felt you were extremely passionate, about everything we were talking about at PAX and what we're going to get into and everything like that. And I can see that it really flows through you every time we talk about it. So I'm happy to know that you're at least, getting funded in order to do this, and it's not just, eating away at you and everything like that.
Working on it. I'm working on it.
So making the transition from online think pieces and cybersecurity and everything like that, what was the thing that made you jump into writing TTRPGs? Were you always involved with TTRPGs, or is it something that you, were interested from a young age, or you just like recently found it?
I started playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons when I was like 12. And I've always been into TTRPGs. I started playing Vampire the Masquerade in 1999 and have never looked back since, kind of thing. So from there, I would say like I've always been very passionate and loved gaming, but I didn't really get into working in gaming until pretty recently.
I think your heater just popped on again.
Oh, yep. Sorry about that.
It'll take a second for Zoom to realize it.
Zoom needs to filter that noise. But no, I back in like 2008, 2009, 2010, I did blogging in the TTRPG space. I did like interviews with game creators and I wrote about games for a bit, but then getting into the actual TTRPG space, streaming, working on games, etc., was more for the last couple of years.
Okay. So with that whole aspect of it just happening within the last couple of years, I would assume that you would probably remember the first thing you put out there. Do you remember the first jump from, your other stuff into the TTRPG realm? Do you remember like the first thing you wrote up?
I did some original stuff that was never published. When I was doing blogging about it for a website, I interviewed Chuck Wendig, who was one of the writers on the Hunter, the original Hunter game, or more towards the later end of when they moved into Chronicles of Darkness. Okay. And then I did reviews of games. So I started off doing game reviews kind of. And then more recently, the first thing I did is I co-wrote a introductory scenario for Vampire the Masquerade as part of Gehenna Gaming, gotcha. with the other people who founded Gehenna Gaming with me and are no longer part of the company.
Right. So speaking of, how did this work eventually lead into Gehenna Gaming? Were you asked to be a part of it, or did you see it prior to and kind of just fell in love with it? And what happened there?
So Gehenna Gaming was originally founded by me and a few other people as a gaming group, just running local games and creating kind of more immersive experiences for players. And from there, that was in tail end of 2008. 2019, we started moving more into wanting to like run games at conventions and things like that. We went to PAX, we started streaming, and then we went to PAX Unplugged and then PAX East in 2020, and then the pandemic happened.
Right.
So we completely changed business models. Some of the people who were part of the company left, became just a streaming, doing a lot of streams. We launched our own online convention, Virtual HorrorCon, which you mentioned my cool shirt. I don't know if people can see it very well, but
it's super cool. It's actually super cool.
This is a shirt for our convention. And kind of went from there. And now, I am the sole founder now. The other people who started the company left, moved on to do other projects.
Yeah, right.
And we've changed business models again. We're primarily focused on like running games online and in person, and working with like publishers and stuff, indie game developers to like market games, teach people how to play games, and just kind of spread our love of horror TTRPGs to other people.
Gotcha.
So it's evolved a lot over time, and it's kind of hard to like pinpoint like exactly how things started, but yeah.
Well, you can see like that that business has kind of like transformed over time to kind of be what it is today. And if somebody was to come in today, like let's say they go to GehennaGaming.com like right now, or they go anywhere else that your name is attached to it or whatever it is, would you be able to give us maybe like an elevator pitch and just tell us what exactly Gehenna Gaming is?
As someone who works in marketing as well, yes, I can absolutely give you an elevator pitch for Gehenna Gaming. Gehenna Gaming provides unique horror experiences for fans of TTRPGs with a focus on safety, consent, and inclusivity. We produce a variety of actual plays on our Twitch channel, such as the Saturday Night One-Shot series that we were doing last year, which is an educational series teaching people how to play new games. We also have a horror podcast that we're starting up again this year. We did a lot of work on that in 2020, not so much in 2021, and starting it back up, where we interview game developers, game masters, writers, as well as people outside of gaming in the horror industry, just for entertainment and also to teach people stuff about horror. And then our bread and butter is really running live gaming events. So either running the tabletop tracks for conventions or running publishers' games at conventions for them, and as well as local game stores throughout North America.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, I think we talked about that a little bit while we were at PAX and everything like that. And I'm glad we were able to kind of capture that a little bit better here. While a part of the TTRPG world now, you're kind of really in depth into what's going on with like the horror genre and everything like that. You put out a few things, like actual writings that you can pick up like on online. I've had a chance of seeing a few of them that include 45, you heard me right, 45 pre-generated Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition character sheets. Yep. And an entire quick start guide into the game. So kind of transferring over into one of the more popular systems, Vampire the Masquerade. That's a ton of shit. That's not a little. That's a lot of stuff.
There's a little bit of a cheat there. The 45 pre-gen characters are, because the way Vampire the Masquerade is set up, there's 13 clans. Ish. Give or take. Yeah. That's 3 characters per clan, and they're just leveled up versions of. So that there's like a starter character, a level, because Vampire Masquerade isn't done by levels. It has a different system. It's kind of like, here's a starter character, here's a character with 15 experience, here's a character with 30 experience, and they're the same. So it's a little bit of a cheat, but it's for variety. So I feel like it's less impressive, but I appreciate it.
It's nothing to scoff at. That's still a lot of work to put that all together. So that's really nice. Now, I do have to ask, is there a reason that had to be done? I myself personally have never played Vampire the Masquerade. I've always wanted to. It's been one of
I'll
my
make a note of that.
It's been one of my. I literally go back on my Twitter and you'll find pictures of me in vampire outfits. Like, come on, invite me to your game, please.
Okay. I'm working on a chronicle right now for our channel, so I'll keep that in mind.
I'm absolutely down. But I would like to ask, from a newbie standpoint, is Vampire the Masquerade a difficult game to get into?
No. Honestly, no. The reason that we wrote a kind of resources book, a quick start guide, is because the book is, I will be critical of the new edition. The book is poorly organized. It's a very easy rule set to get into, but like the way the current core book is organized, you have to flip around a lot to find information. So it's really just, here is like a 1-page summary of all the rules that are spread out across the book. Boom, 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 boom. Print these and use them. Gotcha. That's kind of what that book is for. It's just to make it easier to find the information. But in terms of the rule set, it's a very easy game to pick up and run. One of the things that we do is we specialize in teaching people how to play games they've never played before. So when we run Vampire the Masquerade at like PAX Unplugged or PAX East, they're very newbie friendly. They're designed specifically for people who've never played it before, maybe played the older edition and want to pick up the new edition for the first time because they've heard it's good. Or they've heard it's not good because there's a lot of controversy about the new edition, but they're willing to try it, which I always support because I think it's better.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably one of those situations. Of course, I'm not privy to, what Vampire is exactly, but it's probably one of those situations where it's like change is good to a lot of people, but then some people are so in depth, like whatever they're doing, they're like, don't change what's good. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
It's 100% that. Okay. Yeah.
So if speaking of, like we just kind of went over this, but if you would like to go over, let's say, for instance, you are pretty in depth into it and you know the ins and outs. If you yourself could change one thing about the game, not the layout of the book in particularly, if you could change one thing about the game, what would it be? Or do you like everything the way it is? Just the clans and everything, how you play the game. Is there anything that is in Ravnos' mind?
I will say, due to business decisions and licensing issues and a whole lot of behind the scenes stuff, it's taken them a long time to get products out for the new edition of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. I'd like to see more and they also did a very hard like lore revision or like lore update with the new edition. So there's a lot of stuff from older editions that's not in the game anymore. And it's slowly trickling back in and being added in. So there's besides my favorite clan, the Ravnos, obviously, there is a bloodline / clan from older editions called the Bali that I absolutely love. And I'd really love to see them added back into the game.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah.
They are demon worshipping vampires. Perfect. With infernal powers. So
that sounds right up my alley with like D&D and horror and stuff like that. It's always good. When you're talking vampires, you gotta go adjacent and go werewolves and demons and everything else. So, So with you being so in depth and knowledgeable in the system and everything like that, let's pick Ian's brain. What's your favorite aspect of Vampire the Masquerade? Is it the role play? Is it the romance? Is it the violence? Is it the combat? What is it?
Vampire the Masquerade at its core is a game of personal and political horror. It's designed to you play vampires who are trying to survive in the modern nights where humans are very capable of killing you, and there are other supernatural creatures that are very capable of killing you. So you're trying to maintain power, maintain the wealth, and figure out your life, especially in the new edition where you're encouraged to play younger vampires. Figure out what it means to be undead in a world that up until you were embraced and became a vampire is a human world. And on the flip side of that, battling with that loss of your humanity. And that's my favorite part of it. It's the personal horror, the loss of your humanity, trying to hold on to the scraps of it, which get harder and harder to grasp as you get old, as you age and become an older, less human vampire. Vampire has a mechanic for that, which is called a humanity track. And it can go up and down depending on your actions. And that, as well as battling with your inner beast, are really like those aspects of personal horror that I really love about the game.
So it's very, very kind of role play heavy in the terms of like the more you're into the game, the more your character might, be affected by whatever is actually happening versus it's just a stat kind of thing.
Yeah, you can play entire sessions of Vampire without rolling dice.
Oh, excellent! Yeah,
and I have. It's really fun.
That's great. I mean, it's you get to show off your acting chops, you get to show off your improv skills, all kinds of stuff like that. So that's awesome. That's right up my alley. Like I mean, I know why I want to play the game. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
yeah, those are definitely things that I love doing myself. So if you are watching this or you're listening to this and you are interested in that kind of stuff, Vampire is right up your alley, and you should definitely check it out. So kind of moving on from Vampire for now, at least, you wrote for an upcoming project called The Red Opera, and that's put out by Apotheosis.
It's back there somewhere. Apotheosis.
Apotheosis.
It's on my shelf back there somewhere.
That's what I said. Studios. And headed by the amazing Jameson Stone, soon-to-be husband and second half to the illustrious Satine Phoenix. Your part in the book is a 5e scenario called Ascension Gambit. So first off, before we get into Ascension Gambit, what is the Red Opera?
So the Red Opera is originally a rock opera by the metal band Dia Morte. It's a really cool concept album by that band. That's symphonic metal. If you like heavy metal, if you like symphonic metal, it's really good. I encourage you to check it out. It's on Spotify. Rick Hines, the lead writer, creative person behind the Red Opera, took that and was like, I want to create an entire setting and campaign scenario for Dungeons and Dragons with this, and did, and it's really fun. So essentially it's a horror focused, warlock centric setting called the Shadelands, which is very much kind of to very much simplify it, where warlock patrons hang out, kind of like clerics are kind of outlawed there because very much butting heads with warlocks, and it's this entire realm that you can travel to, or plane, I guess, in D&D. I don't play a lot of D&D anymore. It's fun. It's really cool. And then there's the entire setting. You get a big major city and all the wilderness around it that you can explore, and that's about half the book. It's a big book. And then the other half of the book is a full campaign you can run from like levels 3 to almost 20.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's big. And then there's also side quests, new warlock subclasses, and all that stuff, which is some of the stuff that I helped write.
Awesome. So going into I mean that's a hell of a sales pitch for it. Without spoiling too much, so I don't want you to have to give away exactly what's in the book, but what's the overall description of the Ascension Gambit? What part did you play in this creation?
So I co-wrote Ascension Gambit with some other people, and it's essentially a kind of introductory scenario to what the Shadelands are like, and you have to deal with a cult, essentially. Okay, anything else is spoilers.
Yeah, no, like I said, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but give them that little taste.
It's really injecting our brand of horror, Gehenna Gaming's brand of horror, into D&D, and introducing cults, occult horror, and those aspects into, as well as some body horror into a scenario you can run in like 3 to 4 hours.
That's excellent. I love one shots. I love scenarios that you could pick up like just in the middle of a book, like a big book of things or whatever. You don't have to run an 8-month campaign just to actually get the gist of something. You can just pick up some part of it and it flows.
And then the other thing that I helped co-write in the book was a new subclass for warlocks, which is a warlock with a broken pact.
Okay. I love it. That could go anywhere.
Yep. It's pretty cool. So I highly recommend people check out the Red Opera. It's a pretty good book. Rick Hines is a pretty good creative, and he kind of helmed behind that, as well as all the music behind it is really cool. If you get the book, there's QR codes scattered throughout it
Yes.
that you can scan, and it'll pull up the song that goes with that section of the campaign and things like that.
That is one of the coolest parts that I was seeing during the Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I will tease, we are going to be running a actual play of the entire campaign in 2022.
Oh shit! Awesome. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So we definitely need to go check that out. So kind of spinning it from this horror campaign, and of course your work with writing in Vampire the Masquerade and the Red Opera and everything like that. We talked at PAX for a little bit, and you could see it in the video that we did prior in the interview, that there's a lot of disconnect between the physical space of running a horror game in real life versus the horror game in the digital space, such as like on stream or even hell over Discord or whatever, if you're not doing it live for an audience. So I'd love to like kind of go into that and talk about that a little bit more. If someone were to play a horror TTRPG for the first time online, okay, not in person, what system or what game would you recommend to really set the mood for what it means to play when you're not in a physical space? What's like the best system or game? Is it Vampire? Is it Cthulhu? Is it, what is it?
That's a good question. I think there's a handful of games you could pick, and some of it's going to come down to what type of horror that person is most into. In terms of just how the game is designed and mechanically, I would recommend Vampire, because Vampire is very much a theater of the mind game. You do not, there's no reason to have like a map and minis and anything other than like your character sheet and your dice for Vampire. So I think that one is going to be the easiest to help someone transition to playing online. As opposed to like Call of Cthulhu can benefit greatly from props and having a map and minis, but there's also a lot of good resources for getting those with like Foundry and Roll20 and some of the virtual tabletop stuff. But I think Vampire overall is the one. Beyond Vampire, this is gonna sound like an oxymoron, but 10 Candles.
Oh yeah, wow.
10 Candles is very much designed to be played in a physical space, but I think it is a perfect game to play in a digital space because it's such a collaborative, improv-focused storytelling game. It works really well for very conversational, very just back and forth over Zoom. You can recreate the feeling of like having the candles go out and things like that digitally. But you do have to alter the game a little bit in order to play it physically, play it digitally, in my opinion. Like when I run it digitally, I don't do like the letter that you burn. I don't do that part of it just because I don't want people burning things on camera on a stream. Don't do that at home, kids. Yeah, sort of thing.
Practice safe streaming.
But I do think it's a really good game to kind of engage with gaming in a digital space because of just how focused, because there's no prep that goes into the game. Like you basically set a scenario and everything is done live. You do everything, like everything's decided by the players essentially. So it's a good game to just get into the sense of role playing and interacting with each other and like improving back and forth like that.
Right. Again, one of the major aspects is not having to have something right in front of you, like a map or a mini or anything like that. So, I mean, you got your character sheet and you're good to go kind of thing.
Exactly. So awesome. I think those are the two games I'd recommend. Vampire is very easy to jump in, and 10 Candles, minor tweaks, and it's easy to jump into it.
Awesome. We were talking about in the interview, again, I keep kind of going back to it. You need to watch it if you haven't, but we do talk about a few things that is specifically what we're going over right now. But do you I thought, before I ask the question, we talked about how using different aspects online can intensify or even make the experience better. And I think one of my favorite things to add to a scene or maybe make the scene a little bit better or scary is your surrounding and or the music that is being played during the scene.
Yeah.
If you have good music playing or spooky music playing, during a scene that is supposed to be spooky, you know, that maybe the children's show that's going on in the background because your kids are playing and everything like that won't detract from the fact that you're playing, you know, supposed to be a scary game.
Right.
Do you have any resources that you use personally that maybe you could share with us that could help in making a horror a viable thing over the internet?
Yeah. Definitely. And a lot of this depends on player buy-in. So your players need to invest in being willing to do these things, but turning the lights off, making it dark. Like my office is very dark right now, and I just have key lights on. You can simulate that live just with filters and adjusting camera settings. But like keeping the room darker, having a soundtrack, using more ambient stuff for that. A lot of times when I'm running a game professionally, not streaming it, I will send a YouTube playlist or that either I created or someone else made to all the players and be like, hey, just play this in the background while things are going. Or if I'm using something like Foundry or Roll20, I'll just pipe the music through that. And then just asking buy-in from the players to help maintain that mood. I think that's the biggest thing. But soundtracks are a big thing, and I can recommend just in terms of good ambient music and stuff. Cryo Chamber is fantastic, especially for Call of Cthulhu games and things like that. But you can find a lot of stuff on YouTube just by looking for like ambient horror. For when we've run like the Alien RPG, you can find like ambient background noise from the Nostromo playlist on YouTube and just run that. And it's fantastic because you just get creepy space music. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, the ambient soundtracks that you can find on YouTube are some of the best you can find around. Even for money, you can't find as good a stuff as you can find on YouTube. And honestly, if you're not running the game for, you know, an audience or trying to make money from it, like use those resources that you can possibly find anywhere. And like, you know, like you were saying, the Alien soundtrack or whatever, the Nostromos, having like the creaks and cracks of different things that are happening around you. Like even like, having a soundtrack and then all of a sudden it just starts like whispering or something like that in the background. It's like, what, you know, especially if you have headphones on, that immersive experience really brings it to you.
I played a 10 Candles game recently on stream. And the game master for that shared the soundtrack from The Empty Man, and I was like, just listen to this in the background while we're going. It was perfect ambient music for the game we were playing. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
So it works.
So talking about horror aspects and stuff like that, there many games, like you were saying, 10 Candles and stuff like that, make for great online you know, horror systems and stuff like that. Is there anything that you prefer, or what is like maybe perhaps your favorite system to run online that isn't Vampire, that you would consider like something that you could run either long term or maybe some people would be entertained by?
Call of Cthulhu. 100%. Call of Cthulhu is probably my favorite horror TTRPG. And then there's a lot of indie games, honestly, that I really love, like 10 Candles, like I mentioned. That's one of my new favorites. Vampire, Cult, Divinity Lost is a great game. That's another one that's become one of my all-time favorites recently. And then I would probably say some of the stuff from Free League, like the Alien RPG, or
Free League is my shit. I love Free League.
Yeah. And then there's another one that I'm blanking on right now, but some of those games. Vaesen, thank you, Puppy Lover in chat. Vaesen is a Nordic folk horror game. Oh, and then it's not out yet. Solemn Veil. That's another really good one. That's another indie game.
Nice. So what? Okay, so with all those indie games and everything like that, going out to be a creator of some of these, maybe like an indie game developer or something like that, whatever it is, what would you say is probably the most important thing to consider when running a horror game, be it D&D, Vampire, or some other indie game? What would you consider the most important thing to consider?
Player consent.
I mean, you fucking nailed it on the head. Absolutely.
your game will always be better if your players have bought into the horror, and you can't do that without getting consent and understanding what their lines and veils are. There's some great safety tools out there. We actually have one on our website, which is a horror consent checklist, and it gives you like a bunch of different categories that are very specific for horror games, goes really in depth into it, both personal horror, phobias, social and political issues that can be triggering for folks. And then it's a red light, yellow light, green light system. You just check off like how comfortable you are with things and give that to the GM. And that just gives you guidelines for the game. And you will run a better horror game working within those guidelines than working against them and using something that's actually problematic and triggering for a player. Because like I will run games for players who know me and know how I run games and are comfortable allowing me to use their phobias in a sensitive way in the game because they know I will do it appropriately, respectfully, thank you, in a way that will be terrifying for them.
Exactly.
So player consent is number one.
I've run into that situation as well where, somebody was like, maybe they're arachnophobic or something like that. And I'm like, well, I'm running this as a horror campaign. Would you mind if there was spiders involved? Obviously, I'm not going to have them like
you're using the exact example I was thinking of.
I'm not going to have them crawl. Excuse me. I apologize. I should have said content warning beforehand. No, I'm just saying for anybody that's listening or whatever, yeah. I definitely just kind of went into it. But anyways, content warning spiders. But I'm not going to go talk about, spiders like crawling out of your ears or anything like that, which is like the most horrifying thing you can think of. But, I may mention a spider and to get the hairs, like going up on your arm, maybe to kind of like, okay, this is kind of like where it gets creepy.
I'll content warning spiders. I'll use the example because she just mentioned it in chat. My partner Ellie is afraid of spiders. So when we were doing a Call of Cthulhu game, I had them all pick a phobia for their character, and with the understanding it's going to be used in game. And she said, "Do spiders. That's fine. I know you'll do it respectfully." So and they never saw a single spider. What they did see were spider webs, a lot of them. So
the anticipation.
Exactly. That was scary while being respectful to her phobia, and included something that it actually was very scary for the other players, even because it just worked out really well, even though none of them were arachnophobic. So.
That's perfect. If you can, excuse the pun, if you could weave it into the storyline, you can absolutely make it enjoyable for everybody, even if you do have some kind of phobia of some sort or whatever, especially, like you said, if you're running a horror campaign, or a horror game. Now, going back to what we were talking about before with, having not just your major manufacturers of Vampire, of Cthulhu and stuff like that, we talked about indie developers a little bit. With this podcast, I like to talk a little bit about like learning as a person, like how to get into the system and how to work around certain things. So if you're an indie developer, kind of listen in here, but I do like talking to you, or I would like to talk to you a little bit more about the indie kind of scene. Are there any indie games that you are currently have your eyes on, or maybe that you've been that you've had the chance to play, or maybe like your absolute must play indie game that nobody's heard of, kind of thing?
100%. Number one, already mentioned it, 10 Candles. Right. Love it. It's one of the best games ever written, in my opinion. 100% recommend it to everyone. Beyond that, it's not out yet. It hasn't been released, but Solemn Veil by Dirty Vortex is a fantastic indie game that's coming out. It's got a really unique system. We did do a stream of that on our channel recently-ish, if people want to check that out. And then ones that I have my eye on but haven't played yet are Locusts by Cobblepath Games. That looks really interesting. And Broken Tales by World Anvil Publishing, which is kind of a flip on its head of fairy tales. You play the creatures from the fairy tales.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
And it's a very dark game. So those are the ones that are like kind of top of my interest right now.
Is World Anvil like the World Anvil, as in like the website World Anvil? Like their publishing company?
No, it's a publishing company out of Italy.
Okay, so it's a different one. Okay. I
Yeah.
was like, I've never heard of that. I didn't know they were doing that. But yeah, okay, that makes more sense. And okay, interesting. Very cool. When playing an indie game, though, what do you think is important for the developer to include in the game that just makes the game overall better? Now, we talked about, of course, safety features.
Mhm.
As an individual, I don't necessarily think that they need to include that in the actual writing of the book. Maybe a like, hey, you should probably do this kind of thing, not like a detailed oriented thing.
Yeah.
What other thing do you think they could place in their games that would make their games better than the rest?
So I do agree. Just having a section to encourage people to use safety tools and maybe explaining like where to find more information on safety tools because some people haven't heard of them is important. Beyond that, honestly, a lot of it is less like content to include and book layout.
Yeah,
Make
format.
it very make it very easy to go through character creation, like have a summary of character creation that players can like print out and have. And then like summaries of key rules, like make it very easy for people to pick up your book and understand how to run it without having to read the entire book. That's important. Book layout, book formatting is incredibly important. I would recommend anyone working on a book hire a layout person and hire an editor who understands those things and will help them format their manuscript to make it easy for people to run their games.
Absolutely. I would even add to that, and I would say adding a small section for like a quick start guide, like at the beginning or something like that. That kind of is like, you can read this entire book and get everything down pat and really know the ins and outs and everything like that. Or if you really want to just jump in and like play my game, here's like a short little section to kind of give you the gist of the feeling of things and maybe short descriptions on things. So I would say that's just,
if you don't have a separate quick start, having a section of the book for it would be ideal.
So with the digital age and with the coronavirus running rampant, we are rounding the corner of the second year, second year. I don't even know. It's been 100 years since it started. And so anyways, we are running into the issue of obviously not having as much physical space with each other to run these games. With indie developers creating new games like daily, what do you think? Do you think that indie developers should cater to allow for easier online play? Do you think that's a viable thing for developers to consider, or should it just be left up to people like you and I to figure out how best to make it work, for ourselves?
I think it depends on the game. I think there's games that it's very easy to figure out, like Vampire, like I said. I think a game like 10 Candles could benefit from, hey, if you want to play this digitally, here's a quick and dirty, like use these tools and like remove these aspects of the game. But I think in terms of games like Dungeons and Dragons and things like that, it's going to depend. I think, I spend a lot of time running games online and streaming games. So I think it's easy to quickly adapt a game, but not everyone's the same. So maybe some recommendations on like media to look at, even if they don't include it in the game, but have it like on their website or promote it. Like, hey, like here is examples of this game being run digitally, or here's a guide on our website, like to like how to change mechanics. Like some people really prefer playing Dungeons and Dragons with a map and minis and terrain and things like that. You lose out on that if you don't know about tools like Foundry or Roll20 or some of the other virtual tabletop simulators. So pointing people towards those things as potential tools to use would be important, I think.
I think it would be super cool, and I haven't seen it yet, or maybe in like the higher ups and like the larger developers, but for the smaller cases, I would love to see a spot on their website or maybe a link in their book or something like that of a game being run on the tabletop, and like they just run like a live play on the tabletop and show you how to play there. And then like a live play online and showing you how they did it online and stuff like that. And then just having those links there. That way that people, if they're interested in running that type of game, they literally have a physical example of like how to and how it can be run kind of thing.
Yeah, I think in the digital age, game publishers, indie or not, showcasing their games in actual plays is very important, because I think a lot of people learn how to play a game better that way.
100%.
And this is and isn't a pitch. That's something we do. That's one of the things that we do with Gehenna Gaming, is really like teaching people how to play a game, working with people to showcase those. So if people are interested in that, hi. But I think that I think that's going to be very important for publishers to figure out. Obviously, the big names, it's very easy for them to do that, and they are. But even a lot of indie publishers these days are starting to do that. During their Kickstarters, they're working with actual play channels to showcase the game so that people can see it in action and get interested in it. But that is also a way to teach people how to play it, and I think that's equally important.
Yeah, I've seen, as a matter of fact, you just mentioned, I did see a lot of Kickstarters. They'll have like a link to a YouTube Let's Play or like actual play or something like that. So yeah, that's great. And I think that's a wonderful jumping off point to be like, look, people can play our games. They're enjoying it. They're playing it online. They're playing it in person. You can do it however you want. And here it is. This is how you can do it.
Yeah. Definitely.
So going into the indie developers, kind of like out of the intricacies and everything like that, but kind of like jumping into more along the lines of actual indie games. Are there any indie developers or games that Gehenna Gaming is currently endorsing or trying to signal boost?
Yeah, I obviously 10 Candles, like I mentioned. I mentioned Cobblepath Games and The World Anvil Publishing their games. I would highly recommend people check those out. Beyond those, Chew by Imagining Games is one we showcased recently for their Kickstarter, as well as Necrobiotic by Penny for a Tale. And then more recently, and something we're going to be doing here in the future, is Fate of the Norns by Andrew Valkackas. It's a game that uses runes instead of dice. It's a very Viking Nordic focused game, and it uses like the Elder runes as your like randomizer mechanic. So
gotcha. Is so the Necrobiotic and Chew and stuff like that, what do those entail? Like where are they looking like? What are they? And
Chew is based on the comic of the same name, and it's a food investigative game where foods can give you superpowers and things like that. But it's a very investigative game. It's designed to be like a police procedural almost as a tabletop RPG. Okay. And then Necrobiotic is kind of like a post-apocalyptic, not steampunk, but I'm going to use steampunk as my descriptor for a second, but more focused on using the dead as like tools. Okay. So like reanimating the dead to be your workforce using machinery.
A necromancer's dream.
Yeah, but it's all like machinery focused. It's all mechanical.
Yeah. Oh, great. That's awesome.
Using the dead as automatons.
Awesome. I love it. Hey, thank you very much for coming on here and talking about all the different aspects of Gehenna Gaming, about horror, indie development, and everything like that. We poked a little into your personal life, but I would love for you to be able to take a moment here at the end to kind of plug, before we go into like a Q&A section, plug the different things that you are doing, plug where you are located, all the yeah, go for it. This is like you have 20 minutes. Go.
All right, so let's see. We've been going for about an hour now, so we have another hour of stuff coming up.
This is just the half point. This is the halfway mark.
No, I'll try to summarize. So a lot of changes going on at Gehenna Gaming and personally. So we have a lot of stuff coming up. We're relaunching our podcast, which people will be able to find at the same place it was before. It's going to be an interview show where I talk to game developers, game masters about like how to run games, what their games are like, all that sort of stuff, but also like the horror sphere in general. So talking about like horror's influence on media and things of that nature. We also have, we're going to be turning a lot of our actual plays into podcasts here in the near future. So people can listen to them as audio only shows. So we got a lot of podcast related stuff coming up. I personally am also launching a podcast separate from Gehenna Gaming with my partner called Smashed, which is we are going to be talking about the TV show MASH while drinking gin.
Yes. Okay.
So we're basically going to be doing like 20-minute episodes on like each episode of the show and just talking about it, what we like about it, reviewing the show and just digging into its history and its impact, because it's a seminal show. It's very important for like the history of television. So that'll be really fun. And I love it. I've just finished watching it for the 9th time, like all 11 seasons, and we're about to start over again. So,
well, I mean, if there's ever been a reason to start a podcast about something, you better be sure that you've watched the entire thing 9 times. That's good. That's good. That's awesome.
Yep.
At least you'll have something to talk about because you know everything about it. You know what I mean?
Yep. And there's like, it was very progressive for its time, but it was also filmed in the 70s and 80s. So there's a lot of problematic stuff about that. And we're going to touch on all of it. So that's all I have it going on podcast related. Streaming related, we are completely revamping the Gehenna Gaming schedule as of 2022. So all of our previous shows have ended, and we're starting a whole new schedule. So the stuff that I can talk about is we are going to have a Urban Shadows game starting sometime soon, which is going to be great. It's going to be a charity game that we're running. It's going to be an ongoing game with an all POC cast. The GM is someone who is new to the TTRPG streaming sphere, and I'm really excited to be working with them. That one's going to be really fun. It's using the 2nd edition rules of Urban Shadows. We've got ATL by Night is going to be starting up again in March. So that'll be great. I'm excited to get back into that. We're going into season, I think 6, maybe 7. Ellie will yell at me in chat if I'm wrong. A couple shows starting up. We're going to have a Vampire Chronicles starting up, as I mentioned. We also are going to have a Call of Cthulhu game starting up that I'm really excited about. I'm not even involved in that one. It's just going to be really good. And then also Red Opera, as mentioned.
Right. Yep.
Massive streaming schedule coming up. And then
sorry,
we
both just drank at the exact same time.
Yep.
So anybody watching on YouTube, that happened.
I saw Hydrate in the chat and Twitch. And we have Hydrate on our channel too. It's a rule. Yep. So we have a lot of cool stuff coming up there. Also, just in general for Gehenna Gaming, we're going to be doing more community events and more stuff with our online community in the near future. A bunch of cool stuff like that. And then hopefully working with some of our sponsors, because like we're a Die Hard Dice affiliate. So doing some stuff with a Die Hard and with Diana over there, as well as some of our other sponsors that we're working on stuff with. And then we also have a big event schedule coming up. So like I can say right now we're going to be at PAX East. So we're looking forward to that. We're going to be running games, doing stuff there. And then there's a couple other conventions throughout the year. Like we're going to be at Dragon Con. I can say we're going to be at Gen Con. And I don't know which other ones I can talk about yet because they're not cemented. They're not
I
finalized.
totally understand that.
But we have a ton of. We're kind of lining it up so after the first quarter of the year, we're going to be in an event like once a month. So
that's
very busy,
awesome.
Very busy in 2022.
I mean, that's great. If people don't know who Gehenna Gaming is now, they're gonna know who Gehenna Gaming is by the end of the year.
Hopefully.
No, for sure. Let's get the word out there. If you guys, if you're in chat or if you're watching this later or listening to this later, go check out Gehenna Gaming and Signal Boost them. Retweet, put their websites out there, get all that information out for sure.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And then other than that, just working on more physical content, like working on more Vampire the Masquerade stuff for the Storyteller Vault, like our other books, working on other cool gaming related stuff. We have a few projects in the works that it's a little too early to talk about, but people should keep their eye out for some physical goodies. That's all I'll say.
That's great. I mean, like, as you were saying with the physical goodies thing, I see you have a lot of merchandise. So if you are looking for awesome Gehenna Gaming merch as well, they got a merch store. You got to pick up a shirt, pick up a mug, pick up a cup, all kinds of stuff.
We have a TeePublic shop, and you can find some glassware over on Rusted Icon, and we have some other stuff going on.
Didn't you guys just come out with like a badass new like design, like a diamond or something?
The Sacred Geometry D10. Yes.
Yeah. That was pretty badass. Anyways,
we try to put out a couple designs every year.
No, that's great. Like I said, you have been extremely prolific in what you're doing, and I congratulate you on all the success Gehenna Gaming has had within the last few years, and everything like that. And I do hope that it continues on, and you push forward, and people really get to know who Gehenna Gaming is and who you are as a person. So with that, if we can end on one last thing before we get to the Q&A thing. I know you are also an advocate for charity work and stuff like that. If you would like to go ahead and talk about that first.
Yeah, we do a lot of charity work. We have a lot of charity events coming up this year, and we've done a lot of them in the past. We've run conventions for charity and things like that. And I just wanted to remind everyone watching to take care of yourself. Put on your own oxygen mask first, and reach out to friends or even just people online who if you need help. There's some really good resources you can find within TTRPG communities, as well as sites like takethis.org, which has mental health resources. So just take care of yourself and remember that people care about you.
100%. Okay, now it is time that we open up the floodgates. If you guys have any questions in chat that you've been watching for a little bit now, if you have any questions in chat, please feel free to ask away. You can either highlight your message so I can see it better, or just mark it with, like a big capital letter to begin with. That way I can see it. Just ask us anything, ask away. Now is your chance. You can either talk to, him about Gehenna Gaming, or you can talk about horror RPGs in general. And then myself, I'm open to any questions. I do a lot of streaming, and I do a lot of podcast work. I do a lot of everything. I'm just multifaceted, but also just master of none kind of thing. Okay, so sorry, the very first question in chat.
Okay, all right.
We have a kill, marry, fuck type question. Cthulhu, cult, and vampire V5. Kill, marry, fuck.
Kill Cthulhu because it's by far the most terrifying of the three. Marry cult because I don't know. It's horrifying, and there's the things in cult is very much the Hellraiser of TTRPGs.
Yeah. So
I don't want to be fucking with that. And so so vampire would be the fuck category.
Hell yeah. And I think there's if there's been any kind of sexiness involved, it's not going to be Cthulhu, and it's not going to be Hellraiser. No. It's got to be a sexy vampire.
It's going to be a little bit Hellraiser. Don't lie to ourselves. A little bit. Just a little bit.
Hey, we had no king shaming here, for sure.
Exactly.
Sure. Cult is like the BDSM of TTRPGs.
Yeah.
And you're not going for that one?
I said what I said.
All right. That's good. We have another question. It says cult rumors or cult Divinity Lost?
Divinity Lost. Cult Divinity Lost, definitely.
Why? What's the big?
I don't know what cult rumors is. Easy answer.
There you go, Shiny. There's your answer. Hope that was fulfilling and gave you everything you needed to know about it. But at least we got Ian's question or answer out. There we go. This is a question to you, Ian. If you could turn one movie / TV show or book into a horror TTRPG, which one would you pick? I know we just talked about Hellraiser, but what else would you pick?
Oh no.
I mean, Sharknado is kind of like where I'm going. You know what I mean? Like turn that into a horror piece. But that's just me.
So prior to 2019, my answer would have been Alien. But thank you, Free League.
Yeah.
That exists.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my next answers would probably be Blade Runner, but hey, that's coming out.
Yo, shout out fucking Free League, dude. Free League is the bomb.
Yeah. Gods. Hellraiser is actually high up on the list. A lot of the ones that I'm thinking of exist, and that's part of the problem. The Dark Tower series, that needs a good RPG.
There you go.
The Dark Tower series.
Awesome. let's see. We got another question. It says, question, what would be your dream TTRPG project to work on? So something that is out already, but you would like to maybe stream it or play it.
Vampire the Masquerade. Well, stream or play.
I guess whatever
the Masquerade,
whatever project you want to be a part of, I guess.
Oh God, I mean, Vampire. I'd love to work on Vampire. I'd love to write for Vampire. The game that I really want to play the most on stream is Outbreak Undead by Hunters.
Oh, okay.
That's one that I haven't gotten a chance to play yet, and I'm very interested in. So that would probably be one in terms of streaming or just playing.
Yeah. Okay. For myself, I would probably consider Morkborg is probably one of the like top on my list of to plays.
Yeah.
I can't get over it. It's like it's just constantly on my mind. I really want to play Morkborg.
That's a good one.
We are also talking like in talks right now to run the One Ring. So that's a TTRPG that I would love to be, or a project I'd like to work on.
I'm waiting for my physical copy of that because I already have a game that I want to run.
Hell yeah! One of our members, Trey, who is in chat, probably either lurking or, he plays in our Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign. He picked up like the Kickstarter like "fuck you" bundle, like 600 billion.
Same.
Yeah,
yep.
He got that. So he's just waiting on the physical copy. He got the he got the PDF, and we ran a trial / like kind of like a little one shot kind of to work on the system. And I swear to God, I had so much fun. And I was like, okay,
awesome.
This is,
cool.
We need to do a thing.
The only reason I haven't yet is because I have the PDF too. I can't read PDFs for long periods of time on screens, just from eye strain and stuff. I spend so much time on a computer anyway that I'm just waiting I have to wait for the physical one to read the book, and then I can run it.
Gotcha. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Follow up on Puppy Lover's question. What is your favorite horror movie?
I'm going to say 5 of them because I am very bad at picking favorites. Alien, The Thing, Event Horizon, the entire of the Living Dead series, Romero's zombie movies, and then
Resident Evil. Say it.
I actually rewatched it recently because I do really like Resident Evil, but no.
No.
I'm going to throw a new one in there just for variety. The Empty Man.
The Empty Man. Ooh, interesting.
Yep. That's a new one that I watched just this past year that it was amazing.
I'm gonna have to go with what Shiny said. The Cabin in the Woods. I love the Cabin. It's so goofy and
that's one of my favorites too.
Subverting the expectations and so it's so fun. It's such a campy, fun popcorn munching movie. Yeah, just to hang out. I love that movie. Yeah, for sure. What non-horror movie / show / etc. would you like to turn into a horror game? So kind of like piggybacking off the other one, but like, what would we like? Let's say My Little Pony into a horror game.
I don't know if I can pick. Oh, geez. Actually, yeah. Vikings, the TV show Vikings.
Ooh,
which I'm doing. So that's a tease.
Cool. Oh fuck.
I'm running a Vikings Call of Cthulhu game.
Dude, that is so cool.
Yep,
okay, well,
I will tease that.
That is sick. That is so sick. Well, I hope that just got woke chat up because that was fucking cool. Rob said, I also dying to play Morkborg. Yeah. So, yeah, for sure.
I have the record. So I have Morkborg. I have the Zine they put out and I have the record, but I've actually never played it.
We got to get something going.
We've run it on Gehenna Gaming, but I just produced. I didn't play. So I'm just like, I need to play that game.
Yeah, I need to work on getting a producer. That's a thing. I do everything. So it's like my players just show up. But yeah. Let's see. Event Horizon would make a good module. That could be. Question. Cocktail streaming for games when?
Oh, so Puppy Lover is one of our community members, and I have talked about doing cocktail mixology streams with like game-inspired cocktails. So sometime this year that is awesome. Coming.
That is awesome. Game-inspired cocktails reminds me of something that I did just recently, and I interviewed the individuals from Red Duke Gaming.
Yes.
Red Duke.
The Necronomicon and their cocktail book.
That's exactly it. Yep.
We have the cookbook in our house, and I'm buying the cocktail book because I chatted with them too.
Yeah. You saw
that was a good interview too, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Did you see the stand at PAX Unplugged?
Yes.
Yeah. Got to.
They were sold out of the cocktail book before I could get over there.
They're fucking hilarious, by the way. They were just they were constantly shooting out puns and like being goofy and stuff like that. Very cool guys. Very awesome business. Yeah. Anyways, let's see real quick. We'll do a couple more questions, guys, so we can go ahead and close this out for the hour and a half mark. Let's see. Question: your thoughts on Nexus from Demiplane? Do you know anything about that?
I'm not sold on it yet.
Yeah, I mean,
I've messed around with Demiplane a little bit. I'm not 100% sold on it compared to some of the other options. It seems interesting. I want to see them do more work, and I'd also need some UX UI overhaul. That's my opinion.
This is Dan Munoz's opinion, not anybody else's. But the Demiplane concept is great. I feel like they've put about 2 to 3 times more money and effort into the look of things, the way things look and the way things run, versus the actual core
functionality of
it. Yeah.
Part of my work in marketing has been website creation, and I'm actually rebuilding the Gehenna Gaming website right now myself. There is such thing as over designing something.
I mean, I went to, and I'm not even lying, you go to the Demiplane website, and I shit you not, I took probably about 10 minutes to figure out what the fuck the site is even about. Like, what is this? What is Demiplane? Exactly. It's like sign in, log in, do your thing, and like, well, yeah, hold on, before I even do that, what is this
What
thing?
are you? Exactly.
What are you?
That's one of my main issues with it. So I think it has potential. The concept is great. I think it'll be really good once they spend more time on it.
Yeah, I agree.
Redo some of the design.
Puppy Lover gives us another question saying, thoughts on games which can have horror in them subtly but aren't directly horror, like Wander Home?
Yeah, absolutely. Any game can be a horror game depending on your player buy-in and who runs it. I say that all the time. D&D, I run horror D&D. I don't run dungeon crawl D&D. I run horror D&D. What's another game that's not horror that I want to run a horror Fallout game? I want to grab the Fallout TTRPG and just run it as a horror game. There's another one. What's the other one? I was just talking to someone about it. I can't remember, but it's like a fairy tale princess game, and I was like, I could run a horror game with that, easy, no problem. Just give me the game.
We need to have like a whole section of like horrify this, and we like go over and talk like how we would turn some kind of game into a horror.
I will absolutely answer Ellie's question, by the way. Yes, I did pronounce it Zine, not Zine, and that was just my brain being stupid.
I didn't question it. But I totally agree. Any game can be horrified, and I case in point, my Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign right now. I mean, Rime of the Frostmaiden is designed to be somewhat of a horror campaign, but of course, when you read into it and you get into it, you're like, this isn't very horrifying. Like, I mean, it can be if you describe it right, or if you do something like if you kind of dive into it, but you have to rewrite a ton. So doing so, I've created a lot of moments in my campaign that are horrific, where it's like, a lot of body horror, a lot of things taken from The Thing, and aspects of isolation, aspects of loneliness and stuff like that, that a lot of times the book doesn't do anything to kind of exemplify. So anyways, Robert, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's see. I think that will cut it. I don't see anything else in terms of questions. But thank you guys for joining us today on Nat One-on-One. Our guest today, Ian E. Muller from Gehenna Gaming. If you don't know, you need to definitely hit them up, gehennagaming.com. And check them out on Twitter as well. You've been seeing the thing scrolling by every once in a while underneath his lovely face. Go check them out on everything you can find them on. Gehenna Gaming is a wonderful community of individuals, as you can see in chat already. But you definitely need to go ahead and join that community. That way you can get involved in all kinds of horror games, whether you are a veteran to the system or you are just starting out, they are a wonderful resource for you guys to use. I mean, they are there so you can use them. So be there, watch their stuff, retweet all the stuff you see, because honestly, they need the signal boost because everybody needs to know about Gehenna Gaming. So thank you very much for joining me again, Ian. You have been wonderful. Everybody else, thank you for joining. If you're watching this on YouTube, I appreciate it. Please subscribe, and we can we'll be pumping more of these things out as much as we can. Excuse me. And if you are listening on podcast, thank you very much for listening. I will see you on the next episode of Nat One-on-One. Have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.